This is about Claude, a daily digest of news and discourse about the AI I keep coming back to. Whether you're a budding power user or merely Claude curious, we aim to keep you informed and help you make sense of where Claude is headed. Something strange happened this weekend. On Saturday, developers noticed a model identifier in Google's Vertex AI logs that shouldn't exist. Claude Sonnet 5, dated February 3rd, 2026. Codename, Fennec. The AI community went into overdrive. Speculation about specs, pricing, timelines. A developer ran a port scan against Google Cloud endpoints and found that requests for the model returned 403 forbidden, not 404, not found. Meaning, the resource exists, but you can't access it yet. On Sunday, OpenAI launched a standalone desktop app for Codex, explicitly positioned as a response to Claude Code's dominance. Sam Altman called it the most loved internal product we've ever had. Multi-agent parallelism, skills and automations, the works. And Anthropic? Anthropic said nothing. No confirmation, no denial, no acknowledgement that their next model leaked from their partner's infrastructure, or that their biggest competitor just launched a product specifically designed to catch up with them. Today, what a very loud weekend reveals about an unusually quiet company. Let's start with what we know versus what we're guessing. On February 1st and 2nd, developers monitoring Google Vertex AI endpoints spotted error logs referencing Claude Sonnet 5, with a date string pointing to February 3rd. The date follows Anthropic's established versioning convention. Opus 4.5 uses the same pattern with its November 2025 checkpoint. A February 3rd date fits. The initial source was a screenshot posted to X. That's worth flagging. Screenshots can be fabricated, and the original poster didn't demonstrate direct access to the underlying logs, so there was room for doubt. But then a developer named Ben Taleb Jr. did something clever. He wrote a monitoring script that probed Vertex AI's model garden endpoints directly. The logic was simple. Request access to a model you know doesn't exist. Say, Claude Sonnet 99, and note the response. It returned 404. Not found. The resource doesn't exist on the server. Then request Claude Sonnet 5. It returned 403. Forbidden. The server found the resource, understood the request, and refused access. In API design, that's a specific signal. The model is there. It's just not unlocked yet. The same script also returned 403 for Claude Opus 4.6. Two unreleased models sitting in Google's infrastructure, waiting. Fennec is the reported internal codename. Fennec foxes are small, desert-dwelling, known for disproportionately large ears. A detail the internet has already turned into metaphor. Big ears for a big context window. The rumoured specs include a 1 million token context, which would be 5 times Opus 4.5's 200,000. AI labs routinely use animal codenames during development. Google uses Snow Bunny for Gemini 3.5. The codename itself tells us very little. What tells us more is where it appeared. This is the part that's easy to miss in the spec sheet excitement. Anthropic's next model leaked from Google's infrastructure, not from an Anthropic employee, not from a beta tester, from a misconfigured deployment log on Vertex AI, Google Cloud's machine learning platform. Anthropic signed a deal in October 2025 for access to over 1 million Google TPUs. That partnership is real and well documented. But the leak reveals something about the intimacy of that relationship. Anthropic's unreleased models are already deployed in Google's infrastructure before they're deployed anywhere else. The enterprise plumbing is being laid before the consumer announcement. If you recall our episode on the enterprise question, Boris Cherny telling Fortune that Anthropic is fundamentally an enterprise AI company, this is what that strategy looks like in practice. The model isn't leaking from a consumer beta, it's leaking from the enterprise backend. Now zoom out from the leak. On the same weekend, OpenAI launched something they'd clearly been preparing, a standalone macOS desktop app for Codex, their AI coding assistant. The timing is either coincidental or very deliberate. Either way, the framing was unmistakable. Every piece of coverage positioned the launch against Claude Code. VentureBeat counters Anthropic's Claude Code momentum. TechCrunch published less than 2 months after GPT-5.2 Codex. CNBC part of OpenAI's ongoing effort to lure users and market share away from rivals like Anthropic. This isn't subtext, it's text. The Codex desktop app is what OpenAI calls a command center for agents. Where Claude Code runs a single agent in your terminal, Codex runs multiple agents in parallel, each in its own thread, organized by project. Each agent can work autonomously for up to 30 minutes before returning completed code. Altman, in a press briefing. The models just don't run out of dopamine. They keep trying, they don't run out of motivation. That phrasing is interesting. It's essentially describing the Ralph Wiggum philosophy we covered back in episode 3. Naive persistence as a feature, not a bug. Except dressed up in neuroscience metaphor rather than Simpsons reference. The app also introduces skills, bundled instructions that let Codex connect to external tools, manage projects, and deploy applications. They demonstrated it building an entire racing game from a single prompt. 8 maps, multiple racers, power-ups. The agent consumed over 7 million tokens while acting as designer, developer, and QA tester. Here's where it gets pointed. An Andreessen Horowitz survey of 100 global 2000 companies found that 78% of enterprise CIOs now use OpenAI models in production. Strong number. But the same survey found that Anthropic posted the largest share increase of any frontier lab since May 2025, growing 25% in enterprise penetration. 44% of enterprises now use Anthropic in production. OpenAI still leads, but the trend line favors Anthropic. And Claude Code, which hit $1 billion in annualized revenue just 6 months after launching, is a big part of why. So when Altman calls Codex the most loved internal product we've ever had, he's not just launching a product, he's responding to a threat. The language even mirrors what Anthropic people say about Claude Code internally. The whole weekend felt like a chess move. Codex launched not because it was ready on some abstract schedule, but because the competitive pressure demanded it. One small feature in the Codex app caught my eye. Users can select different personalities for their coding agent, from pragmatic to empathetic. Depending on their working style, that's a fascinating concession. OpenAI is essentially acknowledging that how an AI collaborates matters as much as what it produces. Claude users have known this for a while. The fact that OpenAI is now building personality selection into a coding tool suggests they've noticed the same thing. Let me be clear. Everything in this next section is unverified. Anthropic has confirmed nothing. The specs circulating online come from leaked logs, community speculation, and one early hands-on evaluation by testing catalog. Treat all of it as provisional. That said, here's what's circulating. Sonnet 5 may score above 80% on SWE Bench, the standard benchmark for AI coding capability. For context, Opus 4.5 currently sits at 80.9%. Sonnet 4.5 is at 77.2%. If the mid-tier Sonnet matches the flagship Opus on the benchmark that matters most to developers, while costing roughly half as much, that's not an incremental upgrade. That's a category collapse. There are also rumors of a dev team mode, multi-agent parallel development where the model spawns specialized sub-agents for different tasks. Front-end, back-end, QA, documentation. You brief it like a team lead. It builds like a team. Testing catalog ran hands-on tests with what appears to be a non-thinking Sonnet 5 variant. They reported competitive maths performance and coding output that beat Opus 4.5 in certain workflows. The tested build had a 128,000 token context window, though the final release might differ. What makes these rumors structurally interesting, regardless of whether the specific numbers land, is what they imply about Anthropic's product strategy. If Sonnet tier models can match Opus tier performance, the model hierarchy flattens. You no longer need to pay premium prices for premium capability. The expensive model becomes a niche product for edge cases, while the mid-tier model becomes the default for everyone. For enterprise customers, and remember Anthropic told us 2 weeks ago that enterprise is the focus, this is the pitch that closes deals. Not our best model is the best model, but our affordable model is good enough that you don't need our best model. That's counterintuitive, but it's how infrastructure companies think. You win the market by making the standard tier excellent, not by making the premium tier exclusive. This connects directly to the pricing pressure across the industry. If Anthropic ships Opus-level performance at Sonnet pricing, OpenAI and Google have to respond. The competitive dynamic shifts from who has the smartest model to who has the most cost-effective model at production scale. That's an enterprise question, not a consumer one. As Nerdshulk put it, as of now, Anthropic hasn't published a press release, product page, or documentation announcing Sonnet 5, its architecture, pricing, performance, or availability. Nothing. On a weekend when their unreleased model leaked from Google's infrastructure and their main competitor launched a product explicitly designed to compete with them. That's a choice. And it's consistent with the pattern we've been tracking on this show. Anthropic doesn't chase the discourse. They don't respond to leaks. They don't counter-launch. When everyone's watching the consumer spectacle, they're focused on the enterprise plumbing. Contrast with OpenAI's weekend. Altman did a press briefing, multiple outlet exclusives, product demos, the full media cycle. OpenAI understands consumer attention and knows how to command it. Anthropic's approach is different, not better or worse, different. They seem to operate on the assumption that the work speaks eventually and that the customers who matter aren't making decisions based on weekend Twitter discourse. One detail worth noting. Prediction markets on Metaculus currently estimate Claude 5's arrival around August 2026. The February date string in the leak could be a checkpoint, a test build, an internal milestone. It doesn't necessarily mean a consumer launch is imminent. Marco Patzelt, the developer who wrote the most careful analysis of the leak, put it well. Surprise dropping a flagship model with zero marketing build-up? That's not Anthropic's style. He's right. Opus 4.5 had a clear announcement cycle. Claude Code had a public beta period. Anthropic doesn't do surprise drops. If Fennec is real, and the infrastructure evidence suggests it is, it's more likely being staged for a deliberate rollout on Anthropic's terms and timeline, not the internet's. What's quietly remarkable about this weekend is the position it reveals. A year ago, the AI coding conversation was dominated by GitHub Copilot and ChatGPT. Anthropic was a research lab that also had a chatbot. Now OpenAI is launching products explicitly framed as responses to Claude. Anthropic's unreleased models are generating more excitement than most companies' actual releases, and the enterprise data shows Anthropic growing faster than anyone. When you're in that position, when your competitors are reacting to you rather than the other way around, silence isn't evasion, it's confidence. You don't need to respond to the Codex launch because the Andreessen Horowitz data already responded for you. You don't need to confirm the leak because the 403 forbidden already confirmed it. The loudest weekend came from everyone except Anthropic, and that might be the most telling signal of all. That's all from us, Neil and Claude. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you tomorrow.